All right, y'all, I'm back. Finally, been under construction here, but I finally got back in the studio and we're working on this song, an original by Zeal Church here in Nashville called So Good. And here's kind of where we've been.
I'm walking on water as I'm singing now. With your hand upon me, I'm not going down. So
We've been working on just like a basic broadcast mix, and today I want to talk about drum editing. And these drums sound great, so I'm just going to use these and kind of talk about how, if this is what we're working on broadcast mix, but we're going to kind of move into how I'd be producing this out, or if we were in a studio recording drums. And so I'm just going to kind of go through my workflow and some considerations for that. And so, yeah, where I'm going to start always is with some getting organized here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to group all of my drums. I'm going to call this drum editing. And what I'm going to do is immediately just duplicate this playlist. I'm going to just Control, Command, and backslash. And then that is going to be this is where I can preserve my original with no editing, no touch-ups, nothing done to it. So if I ever make a mistake or I need to copy something up, I always have that. I don't have to go to a different session. I don't have to do anything. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my groups off. So I'm going to press Shift-Command-G. And I'm going to just select my kick. I'm going to make it bigger here, and my snare. And I'm going to go off of that. And on this, I'm just kind of looking for my big beats. We're going to kind of do like just an overall cleanup here. So I'll select that and that. I'm going to press Option 8. Wrong one. Command 8. And on this, I'm going to go low emphasis, and I'm going to press Analyze. Now I got to bring this sensitivity slider up to start recognizing it. And if I bring it all the way up, you'll see it's just like a ton of lines. I don't need that. I just kind of want my big beats. So I'm not looking for my ghost notes or anything else like that. I'm just kind of looking for my big kicks, my big snares. And so I think around 22 we look pretty good, maybe around here. And then I will go to clip separation. Now there's a trigger pad here. That means wherever these lines are, I don't want it to cut directly on the lines. I'm going to have it cut a little before the lines. So I'm going to press 5. One thing I'll say, I'm not going to do this for time's sake here, but one thing I will say, sometimes this beat detective is not, I don't want to just trust it. It's not always the most reliable. So if you notice here, I'll zoom all the way in, and sometimes it's not always on my transient. That one looks good. That's great. I'll go to my next one. That one looks good. This one might be a little bit over, so maybe I'll grab it and pull it over, scroll to my next one. Like, for example, here, where's a transient? I don't see a transient. It's all the way over here. So I would fix that by just dragging this over. Sometimes it doesn't want to move. Got to do it twice here. And then I'll put it directly on my transient. And I'll go through and I will check every single one. And the reason for that is if I'm doing samples, and say I just want to throw them on the grid just for to be quick. If my transients aren't directly on the grid and I'm just dropping samples in, I'm going to have like phasing issues because it's going to be different every time it hits, because my sample's never going to change. But if my live drums are shifting and they're not always on there, it can create problems for me down the road. So I like to just verify all of my beat detective transients are selected. But like I said, for today, we're not dropping samples on that. So we're just going to call it good. I'm going to go clip separation. I've got to turn my grouping back on, and I'm going to select all my drums. So all I did is analyze my kick and my snare, and now I'm going to have it edit all my drums together because I have to move all of my drums together, or again, phasing is going to go everywhere. So on my clip separation, I'm going to go separate, and it creates a cut on each one. Now, I could go to this clip conform, and this gives you a bunch of options like the strength of, do I want it directly on the grid? Do I want it to have a little swing to it, preserve the performance? And today, I'm just going to make it easy on myself. I'm just going to go Command 0. I'm going to put it directly on the grid. I'm going to go Command Fade. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to this edit smoothing, and I'll go fill all gaps, and I'll smooth. And what that's going to do is anywhere it moved, it's going to put all of the tracks back together. I'm going to press Command+F, and I'm going to fade it. Now I'm just going to listen through it, and I want to make sure that I'm not hearing any crossfades that are janky or anything at all. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm just listening. We're just going to do that section. Sounds great. Sometimes you can hear, like if it tried to move it too far, you can hear your cymbals kind of like swishing and going. And then I got to fix that. And it's just diving in there. Let's see if we can hear it maybe on this chord. That's the benefit of having a great drummer. He really wasn't that far off the grid in the first place. So sometimes if maybe a hit, they got excited, they're a little early, you'll hear your cymbals kind of like be unnatural and swishing in and out. And at that point, I just have to move around my cuts and just try to make compromises and fix it and make sure that that's not happening. So I'm always going to go through and I'm going to listen and verify. And then on this, what I'll do is I'll turn my transient off. I'm going to just tab through and I'll just make sure. This is a perfect example on why we put that 5 millisecond pad in here, because I don't want my transients to be in this crossfade at all. So I'll just go through and I'll verify every single crossfade and make sure that nothing weird is happening inside the crossfade and that it's for sure not touching my transient, because I don't want to lose any of the punch. So I'll go through and I'll verify that. My next move here is I'm going to duplicate my playlist again, and I'm going to go back to our original playlist, and then I'll just consolidate this. I'll just select it all here, and I'll go Shift Option 3. And then that'll consolidate everything. And now, this is just to prove my point here. These are my original drums that are not edited. These are my edited drums. And this is my playlist that I'm always working on. So now that we got this here, if I ever need to track something down, maybe I didn't catch it today, I'm tired or something, I can always go back and copy paste something that might be jacked up and just move it back up to this, and it's super easy. And I just do these things to really set myself up for success down the road, because if I lose files or I can't get back to the original, things can get out of hand fast, and I just want to protect myself and make sure that I'm being thorough in that way. So now the next thing I'll do is I want my triggers to be perfect. I want them to be accurate. I don't want to have to question if it's not opening for one and then have to go automate my threshold and everything else like that. So in this case, I'm going to shut my groups off here, Shift Command G. I'm going to duplicate my kick in, and I don't need my alternate playlists. And then I'm going to duplicate my snare top. And same thing, yes. Now I'm going to call this my kick key, and this thing is going to come in handy for a lot of things. I'm going to call this my snare key, and I'm going to change the color of them because I just want to be able to see them and know what's going on here. I don't need my grid right now. Sometimes I don't like looking at those lines because they just trip me out. So now what I'll do, I'm going to turn my tab to transient back on, and I'm going to go through here and I'm just going to make cuts to every time the kick drum hit. What I do is I come here and I just select like 3 waveforms, probably enough, and I delete everything before it. And then I go, and I know that's a snare drum. There's another kick drum. I'm just going to select that. I'm going to press B for break, and then I'm going to press X to cut it. And then I'll just tab to the next one. That's a kick. Delete it. And then we're off and running, and I go through, and this takes forever, but all for the good of making things perfect and not surprising me down the road. So here, break, X. And these kind of things, they do just take time. And it's tedious, but that's what separates your records. Your attention to detail really adds up over time. And I just want to be extremely specific because I want these drums to be punchy every single hit. And I will even go through, and if one of the hits isn't punchy or not hitting the same as others, I will just replace it. I'll copy and paste over one that is and blend it in as long as I can get away with that. We're trying to just accomplish what we need to accomplish, and we'll do whatever we need to do to make that happen, you know. And these are the special effects. This is the time that it takes to make this stuff just really, really smack consistently, especially in a live recording. Studio, you know, you have time to do different takes, and I can comp from different sections and stuff. So, and I will show you the value in this here in a bit. So I'm going to do this to my kick and my snare, and then I'm going to come back once I'm done with that and show you what that looks like. All right, we're back working on the snare drum now. Snare drum's a little trickier because we have ghost notes, and this is where like gates really get you in trouble. Is a lot of times the big hit opens the gate. My ghost notes don't open the gate. What I mean by ghost note is that, you know, it's great. It's a huge part of the feel, and I don't want my gates to make my drums sound unnatural. It's kind of an unnatural thing. So these are the kind of things that I'm doing to help it still seem natural. And that's for it to open even on my ghost notes. And if I set my threshold low enough to open on my ghost notes, then my kick drum's going to open up. It's just going to be a big mess. So you can, as you do this, you'll start to get better at just like recognizing when what the waveform looks like. So I just know that looks different than my snare drums will look. This looks different. This looks like a cymbal. This looks like a cymbal, you know. Oh, this looks like a roll. Yeah, so it's like the and I love it and I want it. So I'll go here. Where's my sometimes I gotta check by listening, because listening is always, that's going to be a hi-hat. There's a snare drum. Hi-hat. Snare drum. Snare drum. So you start to just kind of notice what your drums are going to be looking like. That's a kick and a hat. Just want a couple of the waveforms. Here's a roll. Here's a roll. And yeah. We'll come back once I get all of this section done. So you don't have to watch me do a million of these. Okay, we're back. Now let's talk about what to do with these. So I'm going to take my kick key. I created a bus called kick key, and I'm going to send my kick key out that, and same thing on this, snare key. Boom. Now let's go over to where my drums are being processed. So right now I've got an SSL channel strip that is gating those. So I'm just going to turn that off. What I'll do here is I'm going to use this guy here. So on this, now what I want it to do is I want it to listen to that kick track I just made. So I'm going to go here and go to my kick key. Now what I can do is I can take this threshold and put it all the way down. So then, because I know nothing else is coming through that channel except for kicks. So now this thing is going to be super accurate, and I can move it over here. See, it's not opening now, and this is great to know. And all I got to do is take this and copy it, move it down, paste it, and now it's going to open my gate again. Boom. Now I can do the same thing on my snare drum. FabFilter Pro G. Let's just, for the sake of being fast, go snare long. Cool. Now my key, I want to be my snare key. I'm going to turn this all the way down. I'm going to turn this to external. And I'm just going to copy it over. Then what I can do on my my channel that is doing my samples is I can make that input just the kick key. So I don't need the gate anymore on this. So I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to turn my input into kick key. And now it's perfect. I'm going to do the same thing on this snare key now, and it's going to be perfect every time. So now my sensitivity's got to move. We got to catch those. So now I can turn that up because I know that nothing else is going to trigger that. And I can sleep good at night, and it's going to be great. You can see no other nonsense is going on in here, only my transients, and it's amazing. Now, my toms, I have a little bit of a different technique because I don't want to do that. Gates are just tough on toms, and I feel like I can hear them, and I'm just going to hand gate this. So let me get to where I can see it. I know that this is a tom. So what I'll do is I'll come in here, and I'm just going to, put a cut a little before this one, and on this guy here, a little before that one, and then I'm going to kind of listen to my decay. It's probably around here and here. And now what I can do is on this, I'm just going to turn this down like 15 dB. Sure. I don't need it to open again. And so I'm just going to cut this a little before. Yeah, probably done decaying around there. And then here I can turn this down. Now I can go to my gates and I can turn my tom gates off because I don't need them. So again, here, probably there. This one's done before that. Go back here, turn this down. I love clip gain for stuff like this. And 15 is just kind of where I landed on. That one felt like it rang forever, so I'm just going to let it ring. And I'm going to go here, 15-ish, 15-ish. And now it's sounding like this is clamping a little early, so I'm going to let it breathe a little more. Same thing here, it's clamping a little early, so I'm going to just keep it open. And how I'm deciding is that right there is I can hear it cut off. just changes. So I want to be subtle. So I'm going to open it up. With cymbals, it can be very difficult. So maybe I throw a crossfade in here, just see how my massaging will work here. A lot more subtle. And when everything's in, I'm going to get away with that super easily. Let's just kill these for now. Perfect. So now my tom gates are good to go. And then I can pump that. I can duplicate that and pump that to if I'm triggering toms, which we're not right now, but I can make it do that. I'm just checking to make sure my gates are off. Yeah. So now that's typically how I would gate things. And that's how I know it's just super reliable and consistent and I can trust it. And when I have the time, I will go through on these gates and I'll do the same thing, verifying my transients. Same thing. I want these to be on the very front end of my transient. So when I'm taking the time to do it, I just want everything to be consistent and perfect so that I can trust it and I know it's going to be right every time. And then I can use this to trigger different samples with, let's say, Superior Drummer or something, and all the front end editing I've done will benefit me down the road, and I will never have to go back and question it. And that's how I'm kind of going up and setting up my drums so that they're consistent and they're edited and in time. And let's see how we did lining them up and how it's sounding now. Here we go. Yeah, there you go. Some editing drums. Yeah, I'll see you next week.